Greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Reddit series video from the subreddit HFY, called Contact Procedure, written by MeatFcker. The link to the original will be down below, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Every newly contacted race is supposed to find a place in the Galactic Compact. Most of them end up dying. Once the gate network opens up into some new inhabited system, an official contact team and its normal gaggle of hanger-ons jump through. A token compact gunboats lurk menacingly, translation packets and threat profiles are thrown together. My race warranted a brief, harmless grounded, and a mere 2 gigabytes Morpheum's map. And dozens of alien ships rush towards the newly contacted race, bringing with them the wonders of interstellar civilization. 1 or 2 beret ships and trading for local delicacies in pursuit of their species' goal to eat a piece of everything and everyone in the galaxy. A bubbling schleel ship discreetly checks the various planetary bodies and new nursery worlds. Merchants and primitive art specialists sample the planet's cultural achievements, while science vessels harvest whatever data they can find. There's even the odd pleasure yacht and schooner, home to such rich and well-connected sophons out on a pleasure cruise. All are safe in knowledge that there might be a compact navy will protect them. Then a month passes, and the compact's initial protective period ends. The compact bureaucrats lament their failure to reach a mutually beneficial agreement, gather up the gunboats, and leave. All of the various emissaries and civilization follow. Dawn raiders arrive and ravage the system a few days later. One ship always stays, though, a Niji ship, its crew chosen from the best of the remnant flock, strands of the last watch over the newly contacted race. When the dawn come, they fight back. I had been chosen for the honor of a crew with the ship of the RFS Unforgotten, only a few months before the Soulgate came online. If my extensive study of linguistics and xenophysiology had given me an edge, a lengthy year-long posting on the GRX Commerce Freighter had all but guaranteed me a slot. Nobody else in the fleet was well suited to give our warning to a new race. The Soul connection happened years earlier than any one compact space had expected, catching the remnant flock unprepared for the first time in a century. The Unforgotten was still unfinished, equipped with only a handful of undersized graphite projectors and no deployable defenses. The crew hadn't even begun to work up a full combat efficiency. We didn't have a choice, though. We set off for Sol. Our first sign of anything unusual came when we began to contact package with a sympathetic Wally merchant captain. Not for us lowly client racers in the full glory of the compact navy. We make do with scraps. Instead of a brief, unimaginative descriptor of the bored GCN paper pushers normally reveled in, Sol warranted 2 full paragraphs. Contacting species capable of primitive manned spaceflight, accelerated of manned vessels limited to durability of their bodies, but evidence of crude projectile weapons that can exceed these specifications have been observed. Caution. Contracted species have been spread across 2 planets. Planetary Body 3 appears to be the home world of contacted species. Standard carbon-based oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Beware of strong tidal forces, unpredictable geological activity, and dangerous weather patterns. Planetary Body 4 appears to be a colony of contacted species. Beware of dangerous weather and minimal atmosphere. On their own, all of the snippets weren't surprising. Sol wasn't the first system where live and evolved in a violent and dangerous planet, and the newly contacted race was far from the first to reach primitive spaceflight by contact. But having a species to survive long enough on a broken planet to reach the stars was almost unheard of. The translation protocols were unusual too. Instead of the usual 3 or 4 dialects, it detailed more than 50 distinct languages. I had only ever seen as many in studies as scattered tribal species. Races of individuals doomed to die on the same rock that they were born on. It didn't seem possible that a space-going race could manage with as many divisions as they had. When I brought my concerns to the flock lord, though, he only fluttered his wings in amusement. The compact team may just be trying to make the farce sound important. It wouldn't be the first time one of those bastards forged information. "I don't think it's faked, sir," I replied. "Anyone smart enough to produce this much detail consistently would never buy it. I am almost certain it's real. The flock lord folded his wings down in concern. Does it affect our calling? No, sir. Despite evidence of fragmented and diverse culture, there formed some sort of unified front towards us and the compact ships. Most of the flotilla are calling it the Human Alliance. Human? Seems to be what they call themselves as a group, sir, although they've got a whole host of other names. No idea why they'd need a dozen different ways to label a flockmate, but they've got them. It won't matter for much longer. Find their leaders and make contact with them. I blinked in surprise. I hadn't expected to do anything more than advise on this than on language. It looks like their leaders are nested in a large rotating space station just outside the limits of the gate, most of the flotilla concentrating their efforts there. You better join them, establish a connection and get started with the warning process while I get the rest of our crew into fighting shape. 2 hours later, I was awkwardly perched across from a human, fighting the urge to bolt. Humans are unmistakably predators, even the way the man across me sized me up and made my feathers itch. On a Neji ship, I would have scurried up the walls to safety, but on this cramped vessel of the 6-foot monstrosity could easily reach me wherever I fled. While Neji are definitely striking, there isn't a race in the compact space that finds us imposing. We measure 4 feet from our rear climbing arms to our head, though our wingspans are a good 6 feet when unfurled, and make us due to a thick coat of dowry feathers and a bandolier in lieu of clothing. Our wings boast enough color to make up for it, though. Our 4 deep scarlet orbs add a dash of majesty to our beaked face. We're a species born to ride on the thermals of our homeworld and nest amongst the tall trees. We fended off the predators of our past through sheer numbers and tools, and we fled to the skies when we could not. We never walked into an enclosed space with a predator, sat down across from it, and, shook hands. Millions of years of evolution cried out in horror when I realized that the voice in my ear, delivered courtesy of my small translation unit, wanted me to let the human pin one of my grasping arms and wrench it up and down. I had a tamped-down strong urge to urinate and flee when I felt the carefully restrained strength of the muscles in his grasping hand. Another surge of panic arose when he bared a rather nasty set of teeth in my direction. Only the soft, insistent voice in my ear averted a disastrous first human Neji contact. That being said, it still looked at me like a good 30 seconds to realize that he was waiting for a response. I blinked apologetically. Sorry, but, I'm afraid that I missed that last bit. I felt a jolt of surprise as the human bared his teeth and let out a warbling sound, vaguely reminiscent of our own joy song. The voice in my ear called it laughter. That's a first. Most everyone I've entertained today hasn't cared a whit about what I said. I'm John Gowell, Junior Ambassador to the United Humanity Alliance, and would like to formally request the reason for your meeting. In a little less than 1 of your months, almost everyone who came through the gate today will leave. Then the dawn will going to come. Then you'll die. Much to my surprise, this drew another laugh. So you're saying that all the good aliens are going to leave, and then the bad aliens are going to come and kill us all? They did that to the Neji. The human quieted. The Neji. My people, the flock. When the gate connected formed, we were excited. We long dreamt of the stars, what flying species doesn't. But we never expected to have someone give us the key for free. In a way, they didn't. The compact bureaucrat deemed us a dead end, more useful as a commodity than a people, and the compact stepped aside and let their dawn privateers visit our system. They slaughtered us. Warships filled to the skies and rained fire down upon our cities and forests. The luckiest amongst us were captured and taken as slaves. Others were rounded up and butchered, sold as an exotic delicacy to a species like the Riri, and simply killed for sport. Wait, the Riri? Interrupted the human. Those Ewoks that were trading with nothing but food. That sounds like the Riri. They've got some sort of religious fascination with eating sentience. One of the nastier ones out there. They do a lot of trade with the Dawn occupying our homeworld. Ugh. So how'd you guys end up here? The question came out of nowhere. Sorry? If your race became a bunch of livestock, how'd you manage to bring a ship alongside the galaxy's finest? Oh, the remnants of the great flock that managed to survive the Dawn occupation stole one of their ships. They didn't see us as a threat. Most of us were either penned up or breeding camps or gracing buffet tables galaxy-wide by then. We weren't advanced enough to overpower the guards on the ship, much less 3. But we managed it. We called it the escape. The translation was a small, squawked out, and left me feeling tad cheated. In our tongue, the escape is beautiful, harsh, and hopeful string of musical notes that had a hard sing without feeling a little awed. In the human tongue, it's 3 syllables. So all 3 got out? No, just 1. 2 sacrificed themselves to save the last surviving Flocklord's vessel. We built up from there. Still doesn't explain why you're here. Where else would we be? Before, we were artists and poets and sculptors and singers. We never learned to hate until the dawn came. But we learned that lesson well. It is the highest of honors to be chosen to resist them. The Neji have stood alongside 100 races, though the final days. And you send your ships to die? The human surprisingly mobile face contorted into a frown. You expect us to stop the dawn? The Compact sees to it that they get powerful ships and fearsome weapons. They like their status quo too much to let any but the most select of the races reach membership. Those Compact bureaucrats negotiating with your senior ambassadors are stalling. The deadline that they're going to give you for the admittance is going to pass. Everyone but us are going to leave, and then the dawn are going to come and a raiding. And they've done it before, and they'll do it again. We might be able to change that loss, but the human said with a face split into a savage grin, "We've been preparing." I was ushered into some sort of holding area. A table of foodstuff set up in the corner immediately caught my eyes, and, after a surreptitious scan with my datapad, there's roughly even odds that 2 species can eat the same food. I reached out and snagged a small stuffed bundle that I couldn't identify. Its smell reminded me of the local grass we'd managed to salvage from Neji. But its hard shell and spongy and it didn't quite fit with the image of the small tufts of seeds. I pecked about half of it, my eyes closed in pleasure as the rich, vaguely tart flavor swept through me, when someone spoke. Like the sourdough. My self-control broke. Before the speaker had finished, I'd scurried up into the corner of the roof, my climbing arms latched onto the grill from the small air duct. The human, only halfway into the room, looked at me in surprise. "Whoa! Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Just wanted to see if you liked the cooking. Wasn't sure if we'd get it right. Only had a couple hours to put it all together, you know." My translator was speaking into my ear. It identified the pale-skinned human as a female, and, belatedly, drew my attention to the humor of the newcomer's voice. I gingerly descended and back to the floor, fully intending to smooth things over. My curiosity got the better of me, though. "Sourdough?" "Yeah, bread, like a roll that you were eating. You seem to be enjoying it." "It's good, although I've been raised on a mealworm and grass seeds, so that's not too surprising. Never had a chance to try a planet's cooking before." "Enjoy it while you can, then. I am Faith O'Neill, by the way, Senior United Earth Alliance Ambassador. Figured that this would be a better meeting room than the one of the cells we had you in before." I cast my eyes up at the tall ceiling. "It is a bit more roomy." She smiled, and once more I didn't get the urge to dash for a high branch. Maybe there was something to the bread. "So," she said after a moment, "what's your name?" I'd been ready for this question since we stepped on board, and it almost surprised me that it hadn't been brought up. "Neji don't really have names," I said. "I'm known by description, or by scent or song, but rarely name. If you have to call me anything, mottled crest, broken tail feather will do, but it's not necessary. We haven't had it named on our homeworld Neji when the dawn came." "Really? Why Neji and Nadeji?" "They're the first parts of the dirge of the flock sang when we fled. Loosely translated to English, they mean those who shall remember, and the place of those who shall remember." "Ah, makes sense." She went still for a moment, and then she spoke again. "Time, quieter. We believe you." Just like that. "Most other races take a little bit more convincing. You've only had the data we provided for a few of your hours. I doubt that you started to analyze it right away. I've been in talks with those so-called compact specialists since the moment the gate spun up. Humans spend enough time arguing to know when somebody's stalling, and they, guys, are textbook examples. So what are you going to do about it?" I probably shouldn't have been as blunt as I was. The Neji weren't politicians. Besides, she didn't seem to take offense. "Like John said, we have been preparing." She pulled a small screen out of her pocket and tapped the control. I took the opportunity to scurry over to the buffet table and snag another piece of bread. By the time I was back over to my seat, the center of the room had become a hollow tank. A small, three-dimensional image of a gate was projected in the center of the room, along with a scaled image of a station. There were also a lot of ships that I couldn't remember seeing from the deck of the Unforgotten. On screen, they looked dangerous, even if by the humans' tech level made them seem easy to dismiss. We picked up the gate about half a century ago. Some lucky bastard had his telescope aimed at the star when it passed in front of it. He drew a straight line from where it had been to the Venus's Langray points, set his scope and caught it, passing in front of another star. The damn thing was moving at a decent fraction of the speed of light, and it was slowing down. Asteroids don't do that. We've dreamed of first contact for a while, but having had it right on our doorstep still came at a bit of a shock. It took us over a decade of war to settle down. War with who? I interrupted. Who these humans fight if all of the aliens were on the other side of the gate? Ourselves, she said dismissively. I filed that away as a disturbing yet interesting revelation that she continued. We almost destroyed ourselves trying to come to an agreement about what to do with this. My side won out eventually. What had once been called the United Nations became the United Human Alliance, and we started building. In the case the object was peaceful, we made this ship, spared no expense really, and tried to make it accommodating to as many forms of life as we could think of. Almost managed to home run too, she added with a smile. Didn't have to quite the right setup for those plants. I broke into my translator, finished explaining the concept of a plant. The Schleal! They wouldn't have come aboard even if they had accommodated them. They do everything through those tame bugs of theirs. I'm not even sure if they can talk. Weird. I'll pass that on to our Xenos. They'll have a field day. Anyways, we built up a spaceship in case the contact was peaceful. We also put together an alternative, if not. These two lines of defense. First up are the really freaking big solar-powered laser arrays. There's about a dozen of them that we are in use for asteroid mining, but we always kind of planned on melting ships with it. Judging by what our techs are saying about your ship's alloys, we should be able to burn through them in short order. Most of the ships will have screens to deal with that, I said. Something to do with cancelling of a good part of the wave while it is within the field of effect. It's powerful enough to break through, but it'll take time and juice. The gears. What are these grazers that these geeks have been babbling about then? Something like a focused gravity waves, although that's all I know. I fluttered my wings apologetically as I spoke. I'm not very technical. My specialities are xenobiology and linguistics. They're a short range, though, right? Our best guess puts their envelope at around 10,000 kilometers. There was another lag while my translator figured out how and what a kilometer was. Yeah, that sounds about right. Perfect. One more quick question. What do your ships do for point defense? I was puzzled again. Point defense? You know, for stopping missiles and ballistic weapons. We've got some guns for breaking apart small rocks and meteors, if that's what you mean, but they're not used much. Why would we worry about that? And what do you mean by missile? I'd seen the word in the original compact briefing for the Sol system, but I hadn't bothered to figure out what it meant. My translator was proving rather unhelpful now too. The human didn't seem to notice. Her face split into a feral grin as she stabbed a button in a small screen, and her next word sent chills through my spine. Perfect, she said again. Her eyes were fixed on the holotank as the ordered scene devolved into chaos. A flotilla of darn ships larger than anything that I'd expected to see in Sol burst through the scale model gate. The cruisers were eerily accurate, whatever these humans were. They were damn good at putting together information. The lasers Faith had boasted of tried to cut the ships in half, but the screens I described a moment before had them almost useless. The darn ships bore down on the human fleet unopposed. Unopposed, that is, until tens of thousands of small projectiles exploded out from the space around the gathered human ships. I could only stare mutely as the missiles chased down the darn raiders, slamming into their sides and igniting like so many small vicious stars. Within moments, the only ships left in the holotank belonged to the humans, and the simulated darn raiders were little more than slag. They'll never see it coming, Faith said, still smiling. We'll get the bastards. End of chapter. I hope that you enjoyed. If you'd like to support the channel or the author, all the stuff is down below. And as always, I hope that you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next story. Cheers.